Black holes. Black holes fill me with dread, but probably only because there is so much mystery surrounding them. Should we be scared of them? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking, what is on the other side of a black hole? You guys seem to enjoy our what would happen if Earth was sucked into a black hole video so much that we thought we would delve deeper and decipher part of this mystery for you. Despite the mystery surrounding black holes, it is estimated that there are as many as 10 million or maybe even more in our galaxy, the Milky Way, alone. There are two types of black hole that we know of: supermassive black holes, which are at the heart of every galaxy, and stellar mass black holes. Supermassive black holes have the mass of millions of stars, and stellar mass black holes are still dense but on a much smaller scale, and they can move. We don't really know how supermassive black holes formed, but we do have some insight into stellar masses. This stellar mass black hole comes from the gravitational collapse of huge stars. Our sun, for example, would not be big enough to form a black hole. When stars, roughly 25 times the size of our sun, reach their end-of-life phase, they become supernovas, exploding outwards, but also imploding inwards, buckling under their own mass. Hole is perhaps not the right word for a black hole, because they aren't exactly empty. They're actually very, very dense. So dense, their gravity is so strong that they start drawing in other matter around them, and not even light can escape them. Time and space buckle around black holes, and the laws of physics as we know them start to break down. So what happens inside one, or what's at the bottom of one, or is there even another side? The true answer is, we don't exactly know, but there are some key theories. As I said, black holes are dense. What's inside a black hole is the collapsed matter of the star, and in theory, this collapse goes on and on and on until things get thinner and thinner and denser, leading to a point of singularity. This is one theory anyway, and possibly the most credible. However, there are a number of theories as to what goes on beyond the event horizon, the moment something starts getting deconstructed by a black hole. The theory of loop quantum gravity suggests that there is no singularity, but black holes are simply folds in the universe. Everything we know about quantum physics tells us that information is never lost, that energy can't be created or destroyed, so perhaps black holes are folds or portals to older universes. We're gonna get very deep for a second, so hold on to your hats. Our main theory about the formation of the universe is that it came from one hot, dense point of singularity that expanded outwards, the Big Bang, if you will. The formation of the universe seems like the opposite of a black hole, which sucks in and deconstructs matter into a smaller and smaller amount of space-time. Perhaps the point of singularity in a black hole, the end point, if you will, is the starting point of another universe. This is pretty much what is discussed in the Big Bounce theory. So these are stellar mass black holes, the easiest type of black hole to study, as we cannot get anywhere near a supermassive black hole. There may be another type of black hole too. According to a NASA Q&A page, mathematicians and physicists have theorized that there are hollow black holes that don't require the collapse of a star to form. This type of black hole is imagined to have an exotic geometry and be a place where time travel is possible. Well, blimey, NASA, careful where you're spilling that huge can of worms. But of course, before we all get too excited, we should remember that time travel will only be possible if we're ever able to manage to move faster than the speed of light, which of course right now we're very much unable to do, but maybe one day. There is one more interesting thing to say about black holes, and that is they tend to leave ghosts behind them. By that I mean, as Stephen Hawking observed, the information contained in matter that falls into a black hole seems to be copied and frozen around the event horizon. As NASA puts it, this raises some interesting possibilities that we could resurrect clocks, humans, spacecraft, and whole planets into something like their pristine form if we could magically reverse the infall and collapse process. Whew, well, I think that is enough for one day. Fundamentally, the short answer is we don't know what exactly is on the other side of a black hole, but we have some good theories. We suspect it's infinitely dense, and some suspect it could be a portal to a new dimension. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below.
I'm sure that you're all aware over here at Life's Biggest Questions, we've got quite the hankering for those complete and utter mind-bending enigmas of physics that keep us up at night wondering how long we've got left before they gobble up the entire universe and everything else with it. And no, I'm not talking about Cthulhu, I'm talking about black holes, although it's not entirely outside the realms of possibility that an eldritch great old one is lurking just behind the veil of the event horizon. But that's a different thought entirely, and one one that I'd rather leave tucked comfortably in the far recesses of my mind. No, today we're going to be peeling back the lid of the cosmos in a different kind of dimensional manner. Hello internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice Jack Finch, as today we curiously ask the question, what's behind a black hole? And while it's important to note that while we've covered quite a few black hole escapades already, we're going to initially be paying our dues to some of the greatest minds that physics has gifted us so far and answer this question with a very brief proposition. What's behind a black hole? Well, based on our current understanding of physics, nothing at all. No time, no space, just the singularity, the end of all things. But as is the case with many things, there may be something more to it, and theoretically speaking, what lies beneath these cosmic enigmas are the root of some of the greatest mysteries in our universe. Now obviously you may be thinking behind a black hole as in physically behind? That's ridiculous. How could you go behind a literal puncture hole in the fabric of time and space? And well, the quick answer is you're doing it right now, because as we speak, at the center of our galaxy there's a supermassive black hole known as Sagittarius A star, and pretty much everything in the entire Milky Way galaxy from our point of view is behind that black hole in a fashion. So there's your answer. What's behind a black hole? Me and you and everyone, thanks to the beauty of perspective. Alright guys, show's over. I'll show myself out. Okay, I'll digress, because of course that's a cop-out. However, because of that orbital effect in particular, we can actually bear witness to one of the most interesting and mind-bending events in the universe, where essentially if something is sufficiently luminous enough, such as a galaxy or a cluster of galaxies, that then passes behind a black hole from our observational position, a phenomenon then occurs that is known as gravitational lensing. And here's where things get really interesting. As the two objects pass between each other, we as observers would see the light of the luminous celestial object bend around the black hole as it passed, almost like a wave crashing against a tidal break. And what we then see is the immense mass of the black hole actually curving the space-time around it, so that the light from the distant luminous celestial objects, well, the light that doesn't go straight into the black hole that is, curves around it as well before passing on freely. In fact, gravitational lensing is often used as a sort of magnifying glass in astronomy, amplifying the light visibility of objects that are otherwise too far to be observed through conventional technological means. Essentially, in respect to black holes in particular, this effect only occurs because there is nothing behind a black hole, but that doesn't necessarily mean what you think it may. In fact, it may be incredibly difficult for us to wrap our brains around the fact that there is essentially not a thing as we know it behind a black hole, to the observable universe anyway. After all, if an object of matter exists in the physical space of the universe, no matter its physical dimensions, there has to be something behind it, right? We know what's behind the moon, we know what's behind an asteroid, we know what's behind the Tesla Roadster currently spinning its way across our solar system. They're three-dimensional objects. We know exactly where we stand with them, as well as all of the things that comprise the space between our Earth and their relative position in the cosmos. So what about black holes then? If they're not three-dimensional objects as we know them, then what are they? One-dimensional objects? Perhaps? Maybe something like an electron? That would make the most sense, wouldn't it, given the fact that an electron is a one-dimensional point embedded into three-dimensional space. Well, as far as we can tell, anyway. The thing is, it is often said by physicists that physics makes sense until you go into a black hole, and that's where the real paradox of this notion becomes apparent. Every single image of a black hole that you've ever seen has been depicted in the exact same way, and if that's not already confusing enough, then let me put it this way. Any image of a black hole is a two-dimensional projection of a three-dimensional event that's made to represent a zero-dimensional mathematical absolution known as a singularity. Yeah, exactly. And if things weren't already confusing enough, black holes, well, technically speaking, the event horizon of a black hole are three-dimensional celestial objects, but at the same time, they also fit the parameters of potentially being four-dimensional objects too. In fact, thanks to the scientific solution known as the Schwarzschild radius, which dictates that the properties of space-time inside of a black hole are entirely different than the rest of space, we stumble deeper into the ever mind-boggling long grass that is string theory, which suggests that black holes could very likely exist on up to an 11-dimensional framework. And I'm not even going to try and take a guess at what lies behind that. But here's another curveball that's just mustered up enough escape velocity and made it out of the event horizon of this particular Life's Biggest Question, because very recently, as you all may know, our human species hit a home run, and we actually captured a whole damn image of a black hole for the first time in forever. Well, kind of. It was more like trying to take a photo from Earth of a DVD on the moon, but hey, it worked, and it's probably one of the most important discoveries in physics in a long time. Perhaps, though, coded within its pixels will lie the answer to the mind-bending spatial properties of black holes. And who knows, maybe we'll know exactly what dimensional plane we're looking at these things from. In all likelihood, it will probably just pose many more questions than answers. But hey, that's the fun part, isn't it? Well, there we have it, our short and long answer to the question, what's behind a black hole? Me and you, the rest of the planet, and who the hell knows? Probably like at least 7 more dimensions of even more questions. Yeah, that sounds about right. If you've got any thoughts on the matter or even an interesting insight into the mechanics of black holes, then please let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below.
Astronomers estimate that there are as many as 100 million black holes in our galaxy alone, and that there is a supermassive black hole at the center of almost every galaxy. Black holes are still quite mysterious. We don't really know a lot about them. Works of science fiction allow us to imagine that black holes could serve as gateways to other worlds. As far as we know, going inside a black hole is not the smartest idea, unless you want to turn into human spaghetti. But according to Professor Stephen Hawking, black holes could be wormholes that could provide shortcuts for interstellar space travel, which otherwise would be pretty slow and tedious. A wormhole, aka an Einstein-Rosen bridge, is essentially a shortcut through space-time. So let's expand on this idea in today's episode of Life's Biggest Questions and ask, what if humans could travel through black holes? Welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Charlotte Dobre. This is where I remind you to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell and ask us a question in the comments below. On this channel, we post 1 to 2 topics a day, so it's quite possible that we may have already made a video on one of your suggestions. Make sure you search our videos to see if we have. And if you would like to connect with the creative team behind Life's Biggest Questions, check out the description for all the links to our social media accounts. The idea of black holes has actually been around for a couple of hundred years. John Mitchell of Cambridge University wrote about something he called dark stars back in 1783, now known as black holes. Most scientists believe in the idea of the singularity, where a huge amount of matter is shoved into a tiny space, making a black hole. The gravity of a black hole is so intense, it is impossible to escape, even for light. The edge of a black hole is called the event horizon. It's the point of no return. Imagine the edge of a black hole as being a waterfall. Once you go over the edge, you can't climb out, unless you happen to be capable of traveling faster than the speed of light. As you get closer to the black hole, the speed needed to escape goes up, and at a certain point, the escape velocity needed to leave Earth's surface is about 25,000 miles per hour. Just for some comparison, considering that time only goes forwards and never backwards, once you went through a black hole, you would be annihilated. There is, however, a way around this. We know that gravity bends space, but black holes are not ordinary objects. If black holes were able to rotate like other objects in space, then they could theoretically turn into a ring if they rotated fast enough. A ring singularity could provide a gateway to other universes, other time periods. This is what's known as a wormhole. The term wormhole was coined by physicist John Wheeler in the 1960s when he was examining the work of Einstein and Rosen. An Einstein-Rosen bridge is a tunnel through the universe that's essentially like a shortcut between 2 points in space. No one really knows what happens to all the matter and light that enters a black hole. So where does it go? Is it lost, or does it come out the other side? In a speech from 2015, Stephen Hawking said, "Black holes are not the eternal prisons they were once thought. The way out wouldn't take people back to where they came from, but instead they would reappear, but somewhere else. Perhaps in our advanced future, once we have used up all the resources on planet Earth, whatever remains of humanity will have to use wormholes to find other areas of the universe to inhabit. And maybe a wormhole could give us access to an alternate universe with other habitable planets. These habitable planets could be barren or already taken over by another intelligent civilization. Maybe this would mean that we would be forced to live alongside an alien civilization, or an interstellar war would begin. Let's hope this advanced alien civilization is nice and could share their knowledge of the universe with us, and together we could colonize the cosmos. Unlimited destinations for space travel would be at our disposal. Water worlds, fire worlds, rocky worlds, whatever you can imagine. We could also possibly use wormholes as time machines. We could theoretically alter the future by changing the past. Maybe we could go back in time and find out who shot JFK. Maybe we could try and stop Hitler. But changing the past could have dire consequences. One could literally erase our entire existence if they weren't careful. The ripple effect of changing one small thing from the past is incomprehensible to us. That being said, Stephen Hawking said that if we could travel through black holes, we wouldn't be able to come back to our universe. Once you entered a black hole, that's it. You're on the other side. side. And according to new research by postdoctoral fellow Peter Hintz, whoever traveled through a black hole would leave their past behind, and before them there would be an infinite number of possible futures. Yes, entering a black hole could take you to an alternate universe, but it would also delete your past, skew reality as we know it. Now as we come back to our reality, I will say that no one has really figured out the math of a wormhole to make it so that the gateway remains stable. Furthermore, no one really knows how a wormhole could come into existence. At this time, it's most commonly believed that if you entered a black hole, your mass is simply added to the black hole. You don't go anywhere. You would become stretched out into individual atoms by epically strong tidal forces. As you fall closer to the event horizon, eventually all you will see is blackness before you are dragged at the speed of light and stretched out into strings of atoms. This is what's known as spaghettification. Definitely one of the worst ways to die, and we don't recommend it. That being said, no one knows what happens beyond the event horizon of a black hole. Scientists currently don't know what happens when you exit the universe. We are nowhere near close to any black holes, let alone able to see what happens when we enter one. All we can do is use Einstein's theory of relativity to work out what might happen.
Spiders, ghosts, ghouls, guns, bombs, scary, sure, but nothing is scarier than a black hole if you really think about it. But luckily, we don't have to think about it or dwell on it too much. Yes, black holes are out there, sure, but they're pretty darn far from here. They're like a back of the mind, planet destroying menace. But what if one got all up in Earth's grill? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that loves to answer all kinds of queries from the serious to the whimsical, and I think this one falls nicely within our remit. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking what would happen if a black hole entered our solar system. Before we really get stuck into this video, I want you guys to tell me what you think is on the other side of a black hole. I think it could be a fold in space-time and the portal to another universe, but that is as of yet unproven. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and also if you want to connect with the team that went into making this video, then there are links to our social medias in the description box. Okay, black holes. Before we talk about what would happen to us, let's discuss the difference in varying types of black holes, because no, there isn't just one, and yes, the differentiation is important here. There are two types of black hole: supermassive black holes, which are at the heart of every galaxy, and stellar mass black holes. Supermassive black holes have the mass of millions of stars, and stellar mass black holes are still dense, but on a much smaller scale, and they can move. If, say, the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way entered our solar system, it would basically be immediate curtains for us. The hole in question is called Sagittarius A, and it is 4.5 million solar masses in size. If something of that mass entered our solar system, we would quickly be drawn into it, it having unimaginably more gravity than the sun we currently orbit. It would be a hop, a skip, and a planet smash towards the event horizon, and depending on if our sun went first, it could be pretty cold and dark too. Thing is though, as unlikely as it is that any form of black hole will ever enter our solar system, it's especially unlikely and nigh on impossible that a supermassive black hole will ever swing by. We could move towards it, but that would take, well, to our human understanding, an eternity. So really, what we are left with here is the option of a smaller, more travelable stellar mass black hole. These are formed by the implosion of stars much larger than our sun, and can be up to 20 times the mass of our sun. It is estimated that there are as many as 10 million, or maybe even more stellar mass black holes in our galaxy alone. The nearest is Monocerotis, known as V616 Mon. It's 3,000 light years away and is thought to be between 9 to 13 times the mass of our sun. So, what would happen if a stellar mass black hole entered our solar system? There are some variables here, and the answer totally depends on the mass of the black hole and the distance between it and Earth. If a small black hole a few times the mass of our sun dropped by Pluto, for example, it may not have any real effect on us. But if a black hole the size of Monocerotis entered the very edges of our system, we may find ourselves more susceptible to asteroid hits, and we may also experience a slight slowdown of each Earth year as the gravity from the black hole affects our orbit speed. There is a chance we would see warmer summers and colder winters too. Now, if the black hole got closer, like say the distance of our gas giants away, well, it would have a real effect on them for sure. The gases would likely be sucked in, so say goodbye to the rings of Saturn for a start. We don't know how the core of other planets work truly, but if they're anything like ours, maybe the intense gravity of the black hole would crack them, breaking up the planets and drawing in their matter. Or maybe the outer planets of our solar system would begin to orbit the black hole instead of the sun. But would this mess with our orbit path, and would we see a planetary smash? Probably. At this distance, the black hole would affect Earth quite significantly. This could severely disturb our orbit, drawing us closer or further away from the sun, massively affecting our seasons, and perhaps knocking us out of our habitable zone. We're in what a lot of people call the Goldilocks line, the perfect coordinates for life. It evolved that way. Even a shift of a few thousand kilometers either way could destroy that, ending life as we know it. If the stellar mass black hole came even closer than that, very close to Earth, we would for sure be sucked into its mass slowly but surely, but not before huge tidal waves rip over the world, drowning us all. As we know, the Earth's tides bulge in response to the moon's gravity, and the moon's mass is a speck in the ocean when it comes to the mass of a black hole, so yeah, we all die. The effect of gravity from the hole's mass may even start to crack our planet's crust, causing supervolcanoes in which, you guessed it, we all die. Although good luck trying to kill me twice, black hole, you son of a gun. And yes, eventually the whole ball of joy, our beautiful planet Earth, would be torn up and gobbled up atom by atom in a stretch of delicious particle spaghetti. But is that the end? Circling back to the whole kill me twice thing, there are still a lot of questions as to what is on the other side of a black hole. Some scientists, including the late great Stephen Hawking for example, thought the black holes could be folds in the universe, or the portal to another altogether, and all of the matter spewing from it creates something new. It's a bit of a mind bender, but honestly, we really don't need to worry about it. Our solar system has been surviving and thriving for around 4.5 billion years, and there is no evidence that we have ever encountered a black hole, and there really isn't one near enough by that is traveling towards us to worry that we ever will. It is fun to imagine though, right? Although, I will leave you with one final fact to mull over. There is something scientists have created on Earth called the Large Hadron Collider. This particle smashing machine could possibly have the ability to create a mini black hole. What would happen then? Well, that's a different question to be answered another day. Black holes! My worst existential nightmare. Black holes vary in size, but are usually several times the mass of our own sun. But what if somehow, some way, we could generate a black hole on Earth? And what if it opened up in New York City? Ba ba ba! Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer all manner of queries, especially when it comes to a good old black hole. We love black hole chat. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, providing my own sound effects, and today I'm asking, what if a black hole appeared in New York City? It's like Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, except instead of having fun and lols in the Big Apple is getting gobbled up by a vagrant black hole. Sure. Before we get into this video though, I want to know if you have ever been to New York. I went recently. Here's a picture of me wearing a big hat outside the Rockefeller Center. Fun story, that hat kept on blowing off my head because the buildings create wind tunnels. It was pretty useless, and if there was a black hole in NYC, I'd be sure to toss that stupid hat in it first. Good! Great! Also, do leave a thumbs up on this video and share it with a friend, and if you aren't yet subscribed to Life's Biggest Questions, now's your time to do so. Okay, black holes. This week marked the first ever time a black hole was photographed. Let's have a wee look-see, shall we? So, Shepard Dolman of Harvard University said, "We have seen what we thought was unseeable. While there are thought to be around 100 million black holes in our galaxy, the Milky Way alone, they aren't just happened upon. The closest black hole we know of is V616 Monocerotis. It's located 3,000 light years away and has between 9 to 13 times the mass of our sun. There are two definitive types of black hole, supermassive and stellar mass, as well as a speculative third type, microscopic black holes. We'll get to those. Supermassive black holes are at the heart of every galaxy and have the mass of millions of stars, and stellar mass black holes are still dense, but on a much smaller scale, with the mass of dozens of stars, sometimes even hundreds. Oh, and stellar mass black holes can move. So before we get any wild ideas about supermassive black holes and stellar mass black holes, let's just rule them out right away. They're both far too big and dense to pop up in Manhattan. If they came anywhere near our solar system, the entire planet would be gobbled up in a heartbeat, or less. But what of microscopic black holes? Well, these are still somewhat hypothetical, although they were discussed at length by the late great Stephen Hawking. All hail the king. So, what if a little black hole, say the size of a quarter or a 10-pence piece, opened up in New York City? A wee little black hole, just a tiny thing. Well, it would be absolute chaos. Isn't that always the answer? It is. Now, it's important to mention here that research and studies into black holes hasn't necessarily drawn definitive conclusions, just informed speculation. Of course, we've never got close enough to a black hole to really study it, and we should actually probably thank our lucky stars for that. If a coin-sized black hole opened up in New York City, it would be utter chaos. That's Act 1, closely followed by death and destruction in Act 2, and a third act of conceptual woe. Black holes are super dense in their nature. If a coin-sized black hole opened up anywhere on Earth, it would have a mass greater than that of the Earth itself, which would mean that we would be drawn into it. Classic black hole behavior. Black holes only get bigger the more they consume too. Within seconds, the black hole would suck in everything within a 1-mile radius, and it would keep on drawing in things atom by atom with its super mass. Goodbye Central Park, goodbye Times Square, goodbye Trump Tower, goodbye Statue of Liberty. It wouldn't be long until the 5 boroughs were totally consumed, and it started drawing in matter from nearby towns, cities, countries and beyond. The location of the hole being in New York City is kind of irrelevant. If one opened up anywhere on Earth, we would kind of be screwed anyway, but on ever so slightly different time frames. Of course, what it's closest to will be sucked in first, but eventually Earth would start orbiting the more massive black hole and would be gobbled up part by part. The first to go would be the crust, which houses all life, followed by the mantle, which is hot, hot, hot. According to a very informative In a Nutshell video by Kurzgesagt, the Earth would be a scattered disk of hot rocks orbiting a black hole until it swallowed us entirely. The Moon would orbit this black hole and may well be swallowed up too. There's a chance it could pull in asteroids from the asteroid belt, but assuming the hole was just coin-sized and slightly above Earth mass, it wouldn't draw in other planets in our solar system. It would just stay put, orbiting the sun just like we did, but again, we would all be dead. No worries though, a black hole isn't just going to open up in New York or anywhere for that matter. The formation of black holes only comes from very massive entities collapsing in on themselves. Even our sun isn't big enough to create a black hole when it reaches its end of life phase. But wait a second. A lot of people have speculated that CERN's super expensive and super powerful Large Hadron Collider could cause a black hole. The Large Hadron Collider is a 17-mile-long superconducting machine that can smash protons together at nearing the speed of light. The super machine found the Boston Higgs particle, the so-called God particle, and many, once again, do speculate that it will be capable of creating a micro black hole. While that may be the case, it's quite likely that any hole created would be so tiny and would evaporate so quickly as a result of Hawking radiation. A super comforting sentence for you guys from the NASA website on the matter. A micro black hole could shoot down through the center of the Earth and out of the other side without causing any damage, just as easily as it could shoot up through 300 feet of the Swiss countryside. Either way, it would end up in the near vacuum of space, where the odds of it touching and sucking in any matter so that it could grow into a menace would be smaller still. So like, are NASA saying that we could create a tiny black hole? Cause if so, like, worried? Maybe? Maybe not. Even if that was the case, we would need to adjust our video title to be What if a black hole appeared in Switzerland, because that's where the Hadron Beastie is. But again, don't worry. Or maybe do. But like, probably don't. Okay, that's about enough of that. I was gonna go into the whole other dimension at the end of the black hole thing, but I really do think that is just too much for one day. Put your phones down. Stop worrying about black holes. They're probably not gonna suck you up.
Black holes, guys, they're back. We can't get rid of them because, well, they're slowly gobbling up our entire universe, exponentially getting more and more prevalent as the eternal cosmic dial slowly ticks back to infinity. The fact of the matter is, though, black holes have consistently been the proverbial thorn in the side of physics for centuries, a cosmic entity that has constantly pushed the boundaries of what we know about the universe. And on the grand scale of things, we don't know much for certain, but theoretically, we do know that there's a boatload of cool stuff just waiting for us on the horizon. So, in that case, let's take a look, shall we? Hello internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied flowing voice, Jack Finch. As today, we curiously ask the question, can we harvest energy from a black hole? As for our hypothetical advanced civilization to have the means to harvest the energy of a black hole, we'd probably already resemble the awesome United Federation of Planets, which is something to look forward to, I guess. Now, for those of you that have already seen our previous black hole video, What If You Grew Up at the Edge of a Black Hole, we briefly outlined the mechanics of a civilization hundreds of thousands of years in the future and the means of technology that they'd have to employ to survive in the literal dark age of the universe when all the stars were burned out and only supermassive black holes remained. So if you haven't seen it, now would be high time to head on over and check it out, because in this video we're sinking our teeth into some of the most theoretical of theoretical physics going. So let's boil it down. Can we harvest energy from a black hole? Well, the quick answer to this question is hell yes we can, and not only is it possible, but it's theoretically speaking one of the most efficient energy sources in the known universe. However, it's in the implications of an advanced enough civilization capable of this method of energy conversion where things get really interesting. And for the most part, the fun of this question is how we can speculate on exactly what our spacefaring species would look like. Imagine thousands of years in the distant future, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of years, where humanity has evolved past the point of theoretical physics into the realm of practical science and technology, utilizing the same methods that were once scrawled on chalkboards by grumpy old professors thousands of years before. That's if the current scientific model is correct anyway, but that's by the by. At that point in space and time, it would be safe to assume that our species were entirely capable of efficiently traversing the universe to begin harvesting the energy from a black hole. Because as it stands with our current levels of technology, even getting close to the nearest black hole would probably take roughly 12 million years. And as we know, time is money, friends. For the sake of brevity, let's just circumvent that entirely and assume that some kind of revolutionary warp drive or antimatter propulsion engine has already been discovered to further our civilization's method of harnessing the incredibly potent energy of a black hole. If the scientific model's current understanding of astrophysics and general relativity is correct, then our distant descendants would most likely employ what is known as the Penrose process to squeeze out the theoretical juice. As the name suggests, this idea was first hypothesized by our man Roger Penrose back in 1971, who coincidentally was best buds with the late great Stephen Hawking, and the two of them conjured up all kinds of awesome ideas about the physical magnitude of the cosmos. Great guys. In essence, we've known for a while that almost every black hole rotates at an absolutely staggering speed, and this same effect pulls any material approaching it into what's known as an accretion disk, kind of like that stuff you see in the rings of Saturn. And like with most things, the fun stuff starts when you begin throwing junk at it. Essentially, black holes are kind of like giant plug holes, but not in the conventional sense, because as the matter of the accretion disk spirals inward, exponentially moving faster and faster, wrapping more and more tightly around itself, and before it completes its descent, it will start feeling an intense, unimaginable friction. In essence, it will give itself a carpet burn on a cosmic scale. And as we know, any kind of friction yields energy. We are talking radiation on an extragalactic scale, the mass of the accretion disk directly transmuted into X-ray energy. For a scale of reference, our current best method of converting matter to energy, nuclear fission, roughly has an efficiency conversion of 0.1%. On the next rung of the ladder, the sun's process of nuclear fusion is far superior, yet only converts 0.7% of its hydrogen mass into light energy. The other 99.3% is lost as helium. Black holes alone, all by themselves, just doing what they're doing, gobbling up space, time and matter, have an energy conversion rate of perhaps up to 40%. 40%, that is staggering. A single kilogram of matter converted 40% of the weight into energy would yield roughly 36 petajoules or 10 terawatt hours of energy. That's enough to power our entire planet for half an hour with a single kilogram of matter. We just need to find a way to harness that energy without slipping down into the void, because that's the real problem, right? Black holes are dangerous, and any kind of black hole workers union would have their work cut out for them, to say the least. But the Penrose process goes one step further and notes that the rotational energy of a black hole isn't located inside the event horizon, but instead on the outside of it, in a region referred to as the ergosphere. This is where things get a little bit weird, and Penrose theorizes that any carefully arranged object of matter on this plane could theoretically rotate in space-time for infinity. Its momentum juxtaposed between greater mass energy and negative mass energy. Now, if say that object was a mirror and we arranged the structure of massive reflective surfaces in the black hole's ergosphere, we could theoretically shoot a beam of light into the black hole, and our civilization could subsequently harvest the super energetic light as an infinite source of free energy on an unimaginable scale. Obviously, the cost of such an endeavor would be astronomical at first, but it would pay dividends for literally infinity. And in terms of energy efficiency, there is no better deal in the known universe than that of a black hole. Hey, I'm starting to sound like some kind of black hole energy salesman, aren't I? Well, in that case, theoretically speaking, there's a whole new industry just waiting to be discovered. Isn't the universe awesome? Well, there we have it, our answer to the eternal question: can we harvest energy from a black hole? Yes, on paper anyway, but the logistics of such an operation are still pending the approval of the entire human species. Hurry up guys, there's so much stuff out there.